All of us get impacted by biases and prejudices at some point of time or the other. Like it or not, we have to learn to manage biases and prejudices. Otherwise, it ends up leading us to take the wrong decisions, creating a wrong perception of people, as well as coloring our judgment in an inaccurate manner. So, in case we don't manage biases and prejudices effectively, it can have the potential to cause adverse impact and damage to our lives, be it on the personal front or professional front. Elements such as decisions pertaining to finance, workplace, various other personal decisions can get impacted in case we do not learn to deal with our biases. When it comes to biases, there are various types of biases. There is one specific form of bias, which is anchoring bias, which has the ability to impact us or create damage in case we don't understand and deal with it effectively. Now, what is an anchoring bias? An anchoring bias, simply put forward, is a form of bias when, on the basis of the very first point of data, you end up taking a decision. This could be based on your understanding or what someone has communicated to you. You do not go in to evaluate various alternatives. You end up taking a decision based on the very first set of data or information which is available for you. And that can create problems for you because you don't have a multi-channel focus or possibly don't evaluate various alternatives or various points of view. So an example of anchoring bias is, for example, if you want to purchase a used car and presume someone has told you that the cost of a used car of a certain model or a certain type is 50,000 rupees. You base your judgment on the basis of that. So in case someone who's a seller of a used car comes to you and the actual worth of the car, depending on the condition and various other elements, is actually 35,000 rupees. However, since you have been told by someone and you've understood that the cost of a similar type of car is 50,000 rupees, that becomes your anchor price. And you end up taking a decision to even buy that car for 50,000 rupees, although the actual intrinsic value would be 35,000. In a way, the seller would have taken you for a ride, and unfortunately, because you have not thought through it, the intrinsic value is 35,000. However, what value the seller presented before you was 50,000, and because you already have had an anchor in your mind, which was 50,000 rupees, which was communicated to you by someone, you went ahead with that anchor price and you purchased that particular car. So that's a wrong decision, which would have let the person who's purchased the car to make a loss of 15,000 rupees because the value is not there. So this is what is called the anchoring bias. When we take a decision without too much of evaluation, where we don't put a thought to the alternatives and we accept the very first point of view as the final one. So this can impact us in a major way. So how can you overcome or deal with anchoring bias? Because this is something which we all have been faced with or would continue facing it. So the first element is to accept the fact that there is this form of bias called the anchoring bias. That's going to be foremost and most important. The second point is never be in a hurry pertaining to whatever decision you are taking or a certain judgment in case you have to make in your mind, or for that matter, a perception. Be fair and ensure that you analyze all the points of view. You understand and get into all the elements before going ahead with a decision. Because at times we may feel that the very first choice is the best choice. However, the reality is that may be far from the truth. It's always better to analyze alternatives and choices and pick the best out of all those. Never go into this presumption or assumption that the very first choice is the optimum or the best choice. The next point you will have to learn to manage is always go on logic. Because when it comes to decision making, logic and facts are most important. So someone must have communicated something to you. However, please don't accept that as the gospel of truth. You will have to evaluate, you will have to understand, you will have to analyze whether what is communicated to you is accurate. However, in addition to accepting that point of view, in case you find logic in it, also look at multiple points of view, because just like you, even others would be clouded by anchoring bias as a part of their decision making, and they may also communicate the wrong choice or the erroneous point of view to you. So these are the points that you will have to bear in perspective pertaining to anchoring bias. So anchoring bias is real, it exists, and I'm sure most of us would have gone through it at some point of time or the other. So my suggestion to you is to be patient, analyze the facts, evaluate all the alternatives. Don't just go by what someone else says. You will have to have a very open approach. That's going to be extremely vital. And on the basis of logic and facts, please go ahead with the right decision and definitely work towards keeping the anchoring bias at bay, because it can impact you across various levels. For someone who is a business person, it may lead to errors in terms of pricing. For a person who is investing as a part of a personal goal, someone may end up investing in a certain financial product because that was the first option provided, instead of analyzing various other options. So we would need to be very prudent in terms of this and ensure that we tackle anchoring bias in a manner that our personal life or professional life is not impacted in any manner. So all the very best. Please keep anchoring bias at bay. All the very best. Thank you very much for your time.